call this meeting to order. Let's ask Ms. Brookins to lead us in our prayer pledge.
Thank you. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege to begin our meetings with prayer. Thank you very much for the administrators, our teachers, and our students. Please be with them as we begin our school year, and please help us to have a safe and productive year. We ask all these things in your precious name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'll accept a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Motion carries. At this time, we're welcoming visitors out there tonight that would like to address the board at this time. Let me go through my spiel.
Sorry.
We welcome visitors to speak at any time. We ask that you keep it brief. We limit discussion to 5 minutes on non-agenda items. We can't vote on non-agenda items, but we do want to hear your input. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Yes, ma'am.
I've got a copy of my letter for you. My name is Terry Jones, and I came 2 years ago to speak to you as I started my career in Levy County Schools, and I come here now as I'm leaving Levy County Schools, just to provide some thoughts. I thought about sending this letter to school board members, and I thought it would be better to present it in person. And I hope that I'll be able to read the letter in its entirety, but if you would just stop me, I totally understand. I'll try to hit the high points. My name is Terry Jones. As of June 4th, 2018, I am a former employee of Levy County Schools, where I just completed my 33rd year of teaching. When I came to teach in Levy County 2 years ago, my intention was to teach in Levy County until I chose to retire in 10 to 12 years. However, for a number of reasons, I chose to leave Levy County to continue my teaching career in another county. I've decided after prayerful consideration to share with you some thoughts about my decision to leave Levy County Schools. First, Levy County Schools is the 4th district I've worked in during my career. Never have I been in a district where the individual expertise and professionalism of the teacher is not encouraged, tapped into, or valued. In fact, it is discouraged and questioned by most of the district leadership team. Everything is questioned. Progressive, innovative thinking and problem solving is not encouraged and is in fact discouraged. It's no secret that Levy County is one of the lowest performing school districts in the state. Turning a school and or district around takes more than decisions made by a very few administrators who think that only they have the answers and solutions to improve the district or school. It takes all stakeholders, not just a select few people, to be encouraged and expected to engage in effective problem solving. This is not easy. It takes true commitment and a shift of thinking until true stakeholders, teachers, students, families, community members, agency representatives, are encouraged to engage in problem solving on an ongoing basis, and the results of that problem solving listened to and acted upon, will this district make significant positive gains. Currently, the desire for effective problem solving is given lip service by district leaders. Teachers, staff, and families are expected to follow the directions and ideas of leadership without question. Often those directions are not in the best interest of students or staff. It has been my observation that student needs and teacher expertise rarely drive the decisions made in this county. The decisions are usually based on everything else: political cronyism, personal relationships, school testing, grades, adult needs and advancement, and finances. In education, our clientele are the students and their families. As such, student needs should drive the decisions that are made and the resources that are allocated based on those needs. Second, this district has some very smart, very dedicated teachers and staff. Their knowledge should be embraced and tapped into and trusted as the experts in their field. They are not. They are often treated like errant children by district and building level administrators who need to be told what to do because they don't have the knowledge to make skilled educational decisions. If district and school-based leaders would just ask them and truly listen to the expertise, most of them could tell you where the problems are, and some have really good ideas as to where to begin to address some of the challenges. Teacher knowledge and experts are a wasted resource in Levy County. Moreover, teachers are expected to plan and deliver quality instruction and collect and analyze data, but are not provided with adequate time to do so. I'm not talking about the daily planning time where you take your kids to specials and pick them up and maybe have 30 uninterrupted minutes to complete the extensive plans and paperwork required. I'm talking about paid extended work hours, teacher planning days, short days, and other opportunities for teachers to effectively complete the required work. Third, there are many excellent teachers who were born and raised in Levy County or who have married into Levy County families. However, it is impossible for Levy County to home grow the number of teachers that are needed to serve the students in this county. It has been my experience that teachers who are not from Levy County or who do not have a significant connection to Levy County are treated much differently than those who do. Those of us who have worked in other places have had the opportunity to view and experience other ways of work. Some worse, but a lot of efficient and innovative systems and ideas. Our way of work and ideas may be very different from what has always been done in Levy County, but it does not make it wrong. If Levy County is to make positive changes for its students and provide them with the very best education possible, then the leadership of the county should be encouraging collaboration between all professionals, whether or not they are from Levy County. Mr. Edison will tell you he values all the employees and encourages that collaboration. I tell you, actions definitely speak louder than words. Furthermore, employees are not being expected to follow a chain of command. When a concern or complaint comes to the county office from an employee, the first question that should be asked is, have you brought it to the attention of the principal? If the answer is no, the district staff should expect the employee to follow the chain of command before handling it further. Too often, they jump right in to deal with it, exacerbating a problem or issue that could have been efficiently handled at the school level. This alone creates a high level of unnecessary drama. Fourth, when asked, you've probably been told the main reason teachers are leaving is because of student behavior. I believe that behavior is the scapegoat for significant underlying issues. Most teachers, if asked, will tell you it's not necessarily the student behavior, but how that behavior is dealt with. That is true because problem solving is not implemented when behavior is dealt with. Moreover, I submit that the issue of student behavior lies in the root of relationships. Anyone can educate the kids that are easy, those that come from good families, those that are sweet or are compliant. Our challenge as educators is to educate all students, especially the kids that are difficult. Those that show their hurt and frustration by acting out, that defend their insecurities by bullying, those that don't learn as quickly as others or that learn in a totally different way. And to do that, relationships have to be developed. Until we embrace the fact and the challenge that we are here to educate all children and figure out that it's positive relationships that makes the difference. No strategy, curriculum, discipline plan, or fabulous instruction is going to improve student learning and student gains. Currently, teachers have gotten in the habit of wanting and expecting students to display challenging behavior to be removed from the classroom, and there are times that that expectation is appropriate. However, removal from the classroom does not change behavior. We have to change our practice, one that focuses on changing behavior through positive behavior supports, by being expected to and following through to make positive relationships with every student and family, especially the difficult ones. Kids don't learn from or behave from people they don't like or that don't like them, as Rita Pearson said. And trust me, they know. No matter how hard you try to hide it, kids know. Administrators should begin expecting teachers to learn about behavior, how to implement positive behavior strategies and build relationships with all students, and truly make an effort to implement those changes within their individual classroom. For those who struggle with the expectation or the skills for teaching behavior and building relationships, support and coaching should occur. Currently, behavior support or lack thereof and discipline, in my experience, depends on who you are and or are not, who your family is or is not, and whether or not you have an adult that will go to bat for you. Expectations and rules need to be consistent and consistently implemented for students as well as for school staff. However, we as professionals must always remember that we teach individuals who come from wildly different backgrounds and experiences, and that problem solving is the key to changing behavior, all behavior, kids as well as adults. Finally, one of the most significant factors in my decision to leave Levy County Schools was the attitude and decisions made at my school regarding the students with disabilities. Students with disabilities in the 4th and 5th grade this year received no reading services from the end of January until the end of the school year. When asked about it repeatedly, the response was there is no one to hire or we can't get a sub. There was no effort to problem solve solutions to provide that service. In fact, when solutions were offered from staff members in the county office, they were ignored. I suspect that no effort was made in this area to attempt to demonstrate that inclusive education is not a successful model. However, research clearly shows that all students have increased learning gains and more positive social-emotional interactions when students with disabilities are educated in the general education classroom setting with co-teaching and or support facilitation support. Currently, decisions have been made to move backward from this model of support to a more restrictive pull-out model of services. This decision was made, I believe, based on administrative preference and the desire of some teachers. It definitely was not based on student data. If student data was analyzed for co-taught classes, one would find increased student gains for the majority of students served in those general education classrooms, both special ed, that's not in here, and general education students. As you can probably ascertain, I am a huge advocate for students, for meeting student needs, and for inclusive education. The decisions made about 4 students with disability at my school during the second semester solidified the decision to leave Levy County Schools. I want to clarify that the decisions made were school-based and that these frustrations are not a reflection on the leadership of Dr. Hall. She provides consistent, positive, student-centered, and legal guidance for the schools and the staff. School administrators should be expected to follow her guidance, but unfortunately, more often than not, decisions are made that are easiest for the adults and not what is in the best interest of the students, and often do not follow the legal parameters for students with disabilities. In closing, I'd like to say that teaching in Levy County has given me the opportunity to meet some wonderful people, develop and rekindle some wonderful friendships, and to work with some absolutely amazing kids. The decision to leave was difficult, but it was necessary for me professionally and personally to seek another district whose educational philosophy was more like mine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your input.
Terry, thank you for the courage to come up and read that.
Thank you for very helpful.
Mr. Thomas, just one thing, I do appreciate you bringing this to, and I don't disagree with you on some of the things, we're not perfect by a long shot. I do want, Dr. Hall, you want to explain all to us here tomorrow? With this lot? It's a good
Yes.
opportunity because we're addressing some of the concerns.
We are, here we are. Tomorrow, our district will have professional development. We have invited Rufus Locke III. He's from Texas, and you've heard of restorative practices. And that's where we build relationships with students. And it's a twofold. We hold kids accountable for their behavior. We agree to that. But we do it in a different way. It's not punitive.
Right.
And this is going to be a learning curve for many of us, because so many of us come from the old school. But we know what works for children, and we know we have to be patient. So this gentleman that's going to come that we've reached out to, he's a former elementary teacher. He's a former assistant principal. He's worked in the state of Texas for many years. And so he's coming to tell his story, his journey, and to get us on the right path to reshift and think about the foundational skills of building that relationship, which we know we carry over into the classroom, which we carry over into the academics. And it's about adult behavior too. And we know it starts with us.
It does.
And we had, he was at the DFAC Summer Leadership Conference, and we took every one of our administrators there this year.
And I will tell you, it was an eye-opener for a lot of our administrators, because they heard, we know this to be true about building relationships, about caring for kids, about loving those kids who are not loved so well. About
It's
those
about
kids.
the expectations for teachers to do that. And
Right.
not letting teachers out of, oh, this kid just doesn't behave. It's more, I mean, we can know what to do, but it's following through and expecting that from our professionals.
And
Because our kids deserve that.
I agree with you, totally. So this professional development is just a start, but there's going to be action behind the
Well,
training that we're going to
that's
receive.
encouraging.
And it's not a sit and get, it's going to be ongoing, and you're right, it's about our expectations. And we have to lead by example.
Exactly, and administrators have to expect it from teachers, because if administrators don't expect those relationships to be built, and if administrators do not clearly define that these are the expectations, and we are going to support you in gaining this, and it's a different way of thinking, then it's not going to happen. And that's what I've seen. And a lot of kids, you know, at least in my experience with my school, you know, a kid can do this behavior, and another kid can do the exact same behavior, and the interventions or the consequence is totally different. And kids are individuals, I know, but, you know, it's not fair to some kids that don't come from families that are going to stand up for them, or that don't have somebody that stands up.
And that's why you have myself and other colleagues too. You've heard me say this many times. That's why we have to advocate for those kids who don't have families, they don't know enough to ask for what they need and want.
Or don't
That's our
know
job,
what-
they just don't know what they don't
rights
know.
are.
That's where we come in.
Right,
And we have to make sure that our families do. It's when I was in our kids, it's in our schools.
And I got some other stuff I'll be sharing with you.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the?
Thank you, Terry. We wish
Thank
you
you,
the
Terry.
best.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'll do it right here, if you don't mind. I'm Gary Bennett, and I have been to school board meeting quite a while, but I am vying for the chair there, and if the elected league kind of feels like I do, I hope to join y'all shortly and be part of the group.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
I have to do it now too then. I'm Ashley Clementi, and I'm also going for the open seat. I'm from Williston, born and raised from here, from there, so, in Levy County. So I would appreciate your vote on this.
Appreciate y'all being here tonight. All right, we will now move into our public hearing with Ms. Lake on the budget and millage rate.
Good afternoon. Okay, so we're here this afternoon to present the tentative millage rate and tentative budget. At the end of our conversation, we will hopefully have adopted a tentative millage rate and adopted a tentative budget for fiscal year 18-19. This is the first of two public hearings on this subject. This means any member of the public attending these meetings are welcome to comment or ask questions throughout this process. So first we'll be going through trim, our truth and millage. And this is the first thing we need to discuss and settle on and adopt the tentative millage rate for this fiscal year. The tentative rate that's being proposed is 4.079. So the first page of your packet, I've included a copy of our certified taxable value, which is a little over $2 billion. So if you look at line 16, our RLE is 4.079. That is set by Department of Education. You'll notice that our RLE is lower this year when compared to last year. Line 9 is last year. But it's higher than line 14, and that's the rollback rate. So that's why we had to advertise for a tax increase. The rollback rate is the rate that would generate the same amount of property tax revenues as approved for the prior year. When the tax base increases like this year, the rollback rate is less than the prior year's rate. This simply means that the tax values have increased. So with this RLE, we would receive more local taxes when compared to last year.
Even though we got a lower tax rate.
Correct. The tax rate has not changed, the revenues, the values have increased. Required local effort.
What is that? What is the required local?
The required local effort is 4.079,
Okay.
and that's set by the Department of Education.
What was the current knowledge, what was the current request in this budget?
4.079 is the current. The prior was 4.317, that was last year's.
That's right, we're gonna do this budget here already.
Right, so then they could compare it to the rollback rate, and that would be the same rate that would give us the same taxes as the previous year. And this year, our RLE is a little bit higher than the rollback rate.
Supposedly, what is the percentage increase in what,
So, and you'll see that on the fourth page of your packet, that compares the required local effort to the rollback rate and confirms why we had to advertise for an increase. And then the very next page after that is the notice of proposed tax increase that was published in the paper. And again, what we're proposing is a tentative millage rate of 4.079. Are there any questions?
What was the driving factor that increased it?
The RLE, the required local effort is set by Department of Education. That is a rate that they give us that we can use to
No one
maximum.
specific item
No.
The legislature
Yes.
sets
allowed that.
and the idea was that it would give them the ability to be showing that there was a property tax decrease predominantly throughout the state. But because our property values have increased, that's why you see an increase.
It's a tax increase because it generates more money, not because the tax rate is higher.
When I thought about this,
Right, so millage is lower.
I thought about that point as something specific.
And that's what y'all been saying, there's a lower, you're not able to take advantage of the increase in values. It's like, this kind of demonstrates what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
And when the emphasis on the RLE is R. You have to levy this R, required local effort to participate in the FBFP. We don't get to set what that is.
Right. That's the difference between us and municipalities, the county. They have the ability to set what there's no one telling them what their millage rate is.
I mentioned this at the last meeting, so for those who weren't there, if you look at the ad, you'll see in that ad, it outlines that a portion of the tax levy is required under state law in order for the school board to receive $27.2 million in state education grants. State education grants is FEFP.
That's what you're expecting to get, or will get.
That we have to participate in the RLE in order to receive that. It's a combined revenues. So we get
In other words, that's the
27
state's portion.
portion of the,
If you want to get the state's portion, you have to do the required.
correct.
They can just give up that 27 that you need.
Sure.
Close the school district. I was just-
Agree with it.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then we'll wait for there's a motion to
You
approve.
want it separate, or you want to wait till you
You have to approve this in order to.
do I hear a motion?
Move we accept the ROE basic discretionary capital outlay, the total village of 6.327.
We have a motion and a second to approve the millage rate laws and adoption of the millage resolution. Required local electric will be 4.0790, basic discretionary operating will be 0.7480, capital outlay of 1.5000, for a total millage of 6.3270. Total millage reflects a positive change of 2.2% over current year's total proposed rate. Percent change of the rollback rate is found on line 22. Taxable value. Is there any further discussion?
Are the discretionary millages or those, you have the option?
Those are the same. Those do not change, those are set. 1.5 is our mill for our capital outlay, and the basic discretionary is 0.748. Those are the same from prior year.
Oh, well, so you
Yeah.
don't,
In years,
you control the discretion?
No, not the basic
No.
discretionary.
we can control the capital outlay.
That's it.
That is, and in years, many years past, it used to be 2 mills that we could level. That was changed by the state legislature. Hopefully, possibly might be one day be an appetite that we could push to get that, because that would be very, very helpful to Levy County schools.
It's 0.748, that's the only thing that really real discretionary.
Not in changing
Not
the
really.
rate. Not in changing the rate.
Right.
So we have a motion and a second.
It's different.
It's the-
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Millage rate, tentative millage rate is approved.
Okay, so the reason we set that millage rate first is because now the budget I'm going to present to you is based on that millage rate. Those revenues generated in this budget are based on that millage rate. Okay, so now we'll move on to discuss the tentative budget. This packet, I think you all have a packet from out there, it's all in one. These are the projected revenues. So I have listed 17-18, what we've collected year to date, and then 18-19 is a reflection of the tentative budget. So you'll see in the far right, that's the change. So it looks like a decrease in total revenues of a little over 13,000. But there's a couple outliers in that I removed so we can have a clearer picture. One of those is Best and Brightest. So that's money that comes in from the state, I guess, as bonuses given to the teachers, for lack of a better description, and it flows in and flows out. So it has no impact to our budget, but it does have an impact in that when I'm looking at changes. So I removed it. And then we also received a donation of $240,000 for HVAC for the Cedar Key Gymnasium. So that's another outlier that we don't normally receive. So when I remove those two, revenue will actually increase with this budget a little over $713,000, which the last two meetings we've talked some about the changes in FEFP, and that is almost, see, our total FEFP increase is $631,000 for categoricals, so that's where the majority of those increases are. Is there any questions about revenues before I move on? Okay, so in your packet, you'll see a table with the expenditures. So what I've done is I've listed expenditures by, and this is only the general fund budget we're talking about right now. The revenues are only the general fund as well. So these are expenditures by object, and you can see we have a reduction in salaries, in part to a reduction in instructional positions. We have an increase in benefits, in part to an increase in the Florida retirement system percentage. We have an increase in purchase services, which is where the school resource officer allocation and mental health allocation, those categoricals that I was talking about, that's where those increases are sitting. We have a small reduction in energy services, most likely from the sale or the donation of Wilson Middle School and the sale of Thompson Middle High. We have an increase in materials and supplies. The majority of that coming from a science textbook adoption here. And then we have a decrease in capital outlay, and what you're seeing there is where that 240 donation would have set the expenditure side of that. So the decrease is not that large. And then the last line, other services, that's where we have our subs and dual enrollment, those types of costs. So we're showing an increase in expenditures of almost $873,000 for our general fund. And now what I have on PowerPoint is just a graphical representation of that table by object, and you can see that our largest expenditures are salaries. You can see the greatest change. That's that little gray line. You're seeing it higher in purchase services and again in materials and supplies. Does anybody have any questions?
The materials and supplies, that's basically science textbook production.
That's a lot of that.
I see you reduced instructional positions by 8. You reduced teachers?
I'll let the superintendent.
Well, we have an allocation, it's not just instructional positions, but we received a 47-cent increase last year in our budget. 47 cents, that's per FTE. But the other cost drivers are going up. In other words, you can see right here where his benefits are going up on an estimated $130,000. So when we get nothing as far as increase towards our general fund, but yet all these other things are going to go up because some different things, you know, we don't know exactly where our health insurance is going to land yet. Everything's a projection.
So you're balancing the budget by reducing 8 positions? So I'm not the budget per se, but that's what you're having to do to make the numbers work.
When you get a 47-cent increase, but yet your expenditures are going to increase, you have to do something.
Okay, that's what I just need
Yes.
clarification on
Yes, ma'am.
reduction of 8 positions.
Yeah.
I just
That needs to be clarified that no one's been terminated.
No one's been
Job.
terminated.
I know it's probably through attrition, I understand,
Right.
but I just wanted to make sure I was reading that properly.
Yeah. But that, I mean, it's for the people business.
I understand, I just, like I said, I need clarification. Thank
So-
you.
But that's mainly because we've got a 47-cent increase to operate in this year.
For a team.
Yes, sir.
In the first budget workshop that I did, I went through some of that where we lost a lot of our flexible spending. So when I talked about an increase in revenues coming in the form of categoricals, that's a very specific way you can spend that money. Most of our flexible funding, or a large portion of our flexible spending, goes to personnel. So when you have to start looking at reductions, you can't necessarily reduce the categorical because you have to spend that amount of money. So when you get an increase that goes to categoricals and a loss in flexibility, that sort of drives the decisions that you make. It depends on where those increases and decreases are coming from.
So is there a decrease in the number of teachers? Period.
The last time we take, yes, this year we have less teachers than we had last year. Actually, we have a lot less other people too.
You know what, how many fewer teachers you have this year?
Well, this budget was based upon 8 units. But I don't know that that's exactly true anymore. It's just like Ms. Dean is resigning right now, and there's not a plan to replace that position. Or she's not resigning, she's retiring, excuse me. Difference.
Yeah. So every teaching position has been filled. We don't have any teaching vacancy, teacher position vacancies.
And she's going to be giving a presentation on that in a minute.
Yes.
I guess I'm okay.
We do have.
I did not realize that. Thank you.
So the next graph is looking at the same data from just a different perspective. So now I talked to you about it in terms of object or activity. Now I'm going to talk to you about it in terms of function. So when you look at the function categories for these expenditures, you see a very small change in instruction. You actually see an increase in instruction because our salaries sit across functions. So when you make decisions, it doesn't always impact the instruction function. So the pupil personnel services, that's where we're showing a great increase, and that's coming from the SRO and mental health allocation sits in that function. Media services, they are a component of the instructional materials allocation. Curriculum instructional services has a behavioral specialist position that's sitting there. That's, I believe, a new position that's unfilled.
Yes.
And it has an increase in that function. There's an increase in teacher training, and there were, I believe, 2 new reading coaches and some various travel that has increased that training. Instructional technology, Board of Education is simply our board. General administration has an increase, and that is for the school safety coordinator in part. School administration has a decrease, but again, there's Hurricane Irma costs built into 17-18. So there wasn't really a decrease necessarily in school administration. That's just where a heavy portion of the Hurricane Irma personnel costs set.
What is the total school administration cost? Is that just up here at the district level?
No, school administration is principals, vice principals. The
Oh, okay.
general administration would be the district level. And did you ask me what the total cost was?
Yeah.
I'll get you a handout. It's
I don't
over
have
there, but it's 3.1 million for this year.
I guess I don't have a lot of these charts and what you have handed out here. I don't see.
They're not, we don't have these. So that's just.
I don't have the chart, but I have the graph. It's right here.
Oh, I have none. I was looking for that.
Oh, for the graph?
Yeah.
Oh, no. The graph is just representing these figures. Excuse me. Facilities acquisitions, there's a decrease, and that again is the function where the Cedar Key AC unit set, so the expenditure side. Fiscal services, we have a reduction in some contracts that we had with DES for retired employees. Food services, that is simply Hurricane Irma. Our food services budget cannot provide food during emergency situations like that, so the general fund absorbs those costs. Central services, we had an updated position, an inventory position. We updated a position from warehouse and moved it into that function.
What did the food cost for Hurricane Irma?
$77,858. Well, that's not the total. Is that the total cost? That's what came from the general fund.
Yes, that's what came from the general fund.
77,750.
Yeah, inventory on hand also.
8,000.
Yes.
So 8,000.
Roughly $80,000.
No, total for Hurricane Irma was around 120,000. But this was food. You have Hurricane Irma, we had expenditures, also that 58,000 I'm showing in the difference in general, or I'm sorry, school administration is in part from Hurricane Irma as well, because we have to pay our personnel to run those shelters.
The food was about 8,000
Food was about 8,000?
out of the general fund.
Out of the general.
What's the 77,758?
It's 7,858.
It was rounded off. And maintenance of plant, that increases last time, we've had a couple vacant positions I haven't been filling. And this is, again, comparing not budget to budget, but activity of 17-18 to the budget of 18-19. So what's on the, is a graph of those expenditures, again, by function. And I think it just shows where the costs, our highest costs are in instruction, the people personnel services, school administration, transportation, and operational plans. Anybody have any questions?
Can you able to answer this? The $370,000 for the Board of Education, what does that cover? Is that the principals?
The Board of Education is our board.
Our board, so it's,
Anything that has to do with our board, our lawyer, our board salaries, our board travel, anything that has to do, we have some auditors that sit under there because that's the function that we have to pay them from. We're governed by this thing called the Red Book, and DOU tells us what function categories to use for expenditure.
the superintendent salary included in that, to separate, this strictly just what it says board?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
but those are not just board salaries.
No, it's everything, travel.
All the different objects within that function.
I got
So the function would be the umbrella and the objects fall under.
Okay.
So let's say school coordinator is one of the general administration ones.
In part, yes. That's the function there. It's supposed to be.
Say give me money for it.
Well, 10% out of the allocation for the safe schools allocation, 10% of that money can be used towards that. That's it. But there's a requirement to have. Is that, there's a requirement in the statute to have a safe schools coordinator.
Well, how much did the state actually provide?
10% of the allocation for safe schools.
10%?
Roughly 20,000. And it's from the mental health element. They do have a funding component from the safe school, but that was not an increase.
So 94,949 is the total for safe schools coordinator.
No, not in full. I'd have to run that for you. The majority of that, yes, that would include benefits, because remember, it's the
Right.
umbrella. So it includes insurance, workers' compensation, social security, all of the benefits, as well as, that is not, is that just the salary? Okay, and then I did a fund balance analysis based on the tentative budget. So where we were when this budget was updated, and I had to shut this budget down probably 2 weeks ago so that I could get the advertising out. So as we continue to close out the year, it's important to remember our books remain open for 45 days to accrue revenues and expenditures. So when we do the final budget, this all is subject to change because we're continuing to report 17, 18, even though we are in 18, 19. But you have to stop with your tentative budget and then we move forward with our so as it stood when I closed out our tentative budget, we were looking at a total ending fund balance for 18-19. So looking ahead to next year, we would begin it with a little over $4,056,000, and we would end it with a little over $4,035,000, and that's because we had a budget shortfall. So it's absorbed by our fund balance. So when I broke down, and the 9.06 is our fund balance percentage, not our financial condition ratio that we talk about. Our financial condition ratio has to be 3%, but we have a board policy to maintain it at 5%. So I broke down,
That way we have some money to pay whenever we have a hurricane, so.
so when you look at the total ending fund balance of a little over 4 million, almost 700,000 of that's restricted, so you have to remove that. The assigned and unassigned is what's combined to create your financial condition ratio. So our assigned and unassigned is 3.3 million, which gives us, projecting to give us a 7.71% financial condition ratio at the end of 18-19. But of that 3.3 million, 700 of it is assigned. 2.166, a little over 2.166 million is that 5% of that financial condition ratio, which leaves an unassigned portion of roughly 474,000.
What is the financial condition ratio? I mean, in layman's terms, what is that?
Money you have in the bank that you don't have assigned up for bills and anything else. It's not your house payment, it's not your car payment, it's not your insurance payment. It's the actual money that you got that you can spend.
I would call that reserve fund.
It's the money that you can spend. It's not assigned to any bill that you have. So in other words, when you go through life and your washing machine goes out, where do you get that money from? That's what this comes from.
Sounds like reserve cash.
No,
Yep.
it's your savings account. What it is. That's the actual money in the bank that we can use for things.
The way that the fiscal health of the school board is measured is based on that financial condition ratio. That's why we find it important to talk in these terms. And I believe it's anything over 200 or is it the DOE?
Well, 3% is the threshold. of
3%,
state
if we get below 3%, DOE comes in and will take over operations. So it was very wise of our board to mandate a 5%, even though
So if
I
you go
like
below,
that higher.
if you go below 3%, the state comes in and says,
If you go below 3, the state, you have to file a letter saying this is your plan to make the right issue, which we had in 2013. Where we dropped below 3, we hit 2.78%. So this board has been very, very frugal, trying to make sure to do what's right so we wouldn't be in that position. So that's the reason why when we see that we have a reduction, so why we don't fully staff to the 8 people. So that's why those things, superintendent's done a great job going through our schools and having a set formula. If we have this many students, this is how many units that we have. So and this board has really took it on, the 3%. I mean, to use Mr. Etheridge's phrases, gives you heartburn whenever you're worried about the state coming in. So we hit that point, and that's why I believe this board took the stance that we wanted to go to 5%. That way we have a cushion, that way whenever Hurricane Irma happens, and we have $120,000 worth of expenses, we're not worried where we're gonna come up with that money. So,
I don't want to get another state court that says I need to do my fiduciary responsibility ever again as long as I want.
That's right.
Ever.
Just to illustrate how important it is, last school year, we had an EFE audit, which is an audit of the earning fund, and we had a charter school with an irregularity on attendance. So that was a $440,000 penalty. Now, we were able to appeal that and reduce most of that. But if we were not successful, that would have been $400,000 this district would have been lost.
what did you wind up reducing it to?
I think it ended up being about
We don't have the
40,000.
final number, but it's somewhere around 40,000. We're waiting for the final letter from the DOE.
So you have to pay the state.
Yes, pay back, yes. And we, as Ms. Lake has alluded to, we live with auditors for the time.
this was done with nothing of this district doing
Yeah,
it.
this was this is a charter school.
This was a charter school issue, so here we are, we're the dog chained on the porch, and all we can do is bark.
I remember that issue.
When we ran at 3% and we were out there in it all the time, I remember that hearing, and so did you understand? We had something that fell in the year, was less than $100,000 that moved us to a 2.97%. And the $44 million budget, I think it was about $80,000 that made that swing in the last minute. It fell in one year or the other, they made us put it in that year, made us go. That's the reason the board made the decision, and voted to, we didn't need to be riding that line. So, Ms. Lake is going to lead us to better financial condition for our students.
We can walk through the rest of the tentative budget. I won't have it on the slide, but you'll have it in your handout. And these are the other portions of our budget, not the general fund. We've already discussed that. So the first one is food service. Food service, we're projecting 3.6 million in revenue, 3.4 million in expenditures. This budget is fully self-sustaining. The general fund does not give any money to the food service budget.
Good job, Ms. Julie.
Hasn't
Yes.
always been that way.
That's right.
Okay, the next one, we have a special revenue. There's two portions of the special revenue budget. It's the food service that I just mentioned, and the other portion is your federal grants. So that the expenditures match the revenue. So what we collect is what we spend out in terms of federal grants. We have projecting 4.3 million in revenue, 4.3 million in expenditures. So Title I, all the different IDEA, those different grants. All right, the next one is debt service. We have two debt payments that we make annually, our certificates of participation, which is almost $667,000, and then our racetrack bonds, which is a little over $211,000.
Can I ask one? If you're finished paying for the Wilson Middle High School,
This
you
is
finished,
17-18 was the last budget with those special facilities
So then that-
expenditures.
1.5 mil just goes into a special fund.
1.5 will be our capital outlay, so it won't go towards the building of Wilson High School. That is done.
If you'll, in a couple pages, you'll see the notice of the tax, and on there, you'll see things like the Cedar Key cafeteria, Yankee Town Media Center, the Chiefland High School Building Administration. Those are things that our debt service is going to pay off of, so, and that has to be paid out of that 1.5 capital outlay.
So our next page is capital projects, and again, the ad that Mr. Cowart was talking about, this is the ad that, the trend notice that we have to provide to the citizens of Levy County, showing them how we will spend that 1.5 mil. If it's not listed here, we would have to meet again, do a public meeting to add to that notice of tax for school capital outlay, or we couldn't use those dollars for that expenditure. And our capital outlay dollars are very narrow. They are just, I know this won't mean a lot, but it's a very specific object, and then it's a very specific function. So there isn't a lot of room that you can do with these dollars. So our capital projects include that 1.5 mil. It also includes PICO, and then it would include non-voted capital as well. The majority of this comes from our 1.5 mil.
PICO would be like the maintenance of our, and upkeep of our building.
Just to give you an example, we got $140,000 this past year. So it's very, very small. The majority of our capital funding is our 1.5, which was about 2.5, 2.6.
Now, to take care of 9 schools, $144,000.
So how much are you getting in this budget?
The 1.5 is about 2.6.
What's your thing?
Are you asking how much PICO funds we're
Yeah.
getting?
Oh, we don't know what we're getting for 18-19. I do believe the capital schools, or the capital schools, the charter schools are getting increased in PICO funding because we are not having to share a 1.5 mil, so I suspect school districts will get little to no PICO. All right, and the very last table is our self-insurance, so this would be our health insurance, different insurances that we carry, not just the one.
Are we in the new budget period, or are we not?
We are in both, we're straddling the fence, but yes.
Easily
We've got 45 days.
Yeah, you have 45. So there's still things happening for 17, 18, because you have accounting going on, and accounting isn't always as black and white as we like it. I guess I would say it's ultimately.
Technically, July 1
But-
to June 30th is the fiscal year.
So we have to straddle between 2 fiscal years, yes. Once we complete our annual financial report September 11th, we will be fully engaged in our. So this is the last ad. This is the budget summary ad that was published in the newspaper along with the other 2 ads. Again, these are trim requirements. So this shows our approved millage of 4.079, our total millage of 6.327, and a budget total of 71.3 million, as was advertised in the newspaper for the purpose of this public hearing. Are there any questions before we hear a motion to approve this budget?
I do want to make one thing clear, is that this is all only general fund.
No.
Well, I'm just telling what you're talking about, general fund dollars.
Oh, the millage, yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
But we do have a couple of other budgets that are out there, like the PSE and Title I, so the federal budgets that are out there that we're not talking about.
Those would be under the special revenue portion of this budget, but the RLE, the required local effort, is specifically talking about revenues generated for the general.
Total budget's gonna be 71.2 million.
And that does include everything.
What was last year's, our,
69, 70, it was pretty close. Our general fund, only is 48.
Move we adopt tentative budget resolution 19-02.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt tentative budget resolution 1902. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Is there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Lake. Outstanding presentation. It's clear.
so that motion encompasses millage and the tentative budget.
Well, there were two separate things. We passed the tentative millage first, and then we passed the tentative budget.
So this is tentative.
That was the tentative budget. The first thing was the tentative millage.
If we don't pass the millage, we can't pass the budget.
That's right.
And then we will revisit this for a final budget and millage.
In the same order, millage
Same.
and budget.
And I am not in the journalism business, but if you want to do something really neat, a great expose, do a comparison on PICO funding for the number of charter schools in our state versus the classic public education schools in our state. And tell me what's fair about it. You might win a Pulitzer if you do that story.
Or at least get a pat on the back for us.
Mhm. Look into it, it's interesting. All right, but thank you, Ms. Lake. We will now move on to one of my favorite people, Ms. Julia, food nutrition. The lunch price increase.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to go ahead and ask, is there samples?
Oh! She's gonna hit us up, the increase size. That brings an example.
I was just stealing your thunder.
I know, man, that's my thing, Chris.
Good evening. I do have samples. This is really just a presentation. I am here tonight to ask for a 20% increase in the salad bar at what prices. Potato bar, nacho bar, salad bar, and then of course they can buy more also. Presently we are at $3.55. I'm asking for an increase of $3.75. Forgive me, I don't have a presentation that way, but I was asked to share a picture. My pictures were grainy, so I did not want to put them. So presently, at almost every school, and they will be at every school this year,
And so this is a salad bar for the students, adults,
this is for the adults only.
adults only.
These are for adults only. This one shows about 20 items. Some have a few less, but not much more, and then we have much more. 24 and above items to choose from. We've increased each year. The 355 has been present, I'm not even sure how long, I don't know how I could look that up, before my time.
sandwiches for hot lunch in the lines. But since then, we've implemented the salad bar, and each year it grows from school to school. So the last 2 schools should be joining Fortis this year. That'll be Chiefland High and Split. So wherever you go, any school you go to will have the salad bar available.
And they have it available every day.
It is available on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Oh,
What do you do on Tuesday?
So this is the salad, a sample of what some get more. Just so you all see. That is the salad bar. You sure can.
yeah.
What do you do on Tuesdays? Julie?
So on
You advertise
Tuesday,
that price, you have everybody from town.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a fine bar.
It's a bar for 3 cents.
so at 3:55, this is what you can get now. This is available on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Monday, we do not serve salad bar. The reason for that is fresh produce is delivered every Tuesday. So that way everybody gets a fresh product. We wait until the Tuesday delivery, which comes throughout the morning. So on Tuesdays, we do a hot bar, which can be potato bar, nacho bar, and some schools are very creative and they do a soup and sandwich bar. So that way that produce has time to get there. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're getting fresh products and only fresh products.
Now, so I'm a little unclear when you say some schools do this, some offer more. Why is that? Why are we not consistent?
As far as on Tuesdays,
Well, no, on products, or the number of products in the salad, and then some bars do soup and salad, and some do potato and all. Why are we not doing the same thing?
I promote creativity in each school for the salad bar. They are to actually go to the customers, the staff, and find out what they like. And put that salad bar according to what they can serve at that school and what makes those teachers happy. This is not a profit making, this is to bring us in as a team to where teachers have a place to come and affordably are able to eat fresh foods within their 30-minute time limit. So we're there to please them as a customer and give them what they want. Some of them are restricted on space, as far as how big they have or what they can store in their refrigerators, but it's basically upon the customer what the customer wants. Because that's what we're all about. That's right.
And I can tell you, I eat at least once a week at every school with staff.
Yes, sir.
Well, you said you're asking for a constant increase of what adults pay for the salad bar?
Correct.
But students have access to the same salad bar?
No, they do not.
They do.
They do not. This year, if they are served daily, the requirements that the government standards put in, a half cup or 1/2 cup for elementary, 1 cup for high schools. The high schools are this year going to actually have a mini salad area where they can pick up fresh vegetables and fresh fruit. So we're introducing it slowly, again, because of space and the money it takes to get it started. But my goal is to eventually get that in there for them. This is for adults only. For the teachers to bring, like I said, to bring them in, get that team spirit, allow them somewhere they can eat.
So the students get a balanced meal, but it doesn't include salad bar?
That is correct. It does not include the salad bar for teachers at this time. This is theirs. This is also not limited with the salad bar for adults. It's not limited to the government standards. So we can play a little bit. And that's where I give them the creativity to where they can create a macaroni salad that might have a tad of salt that the students aren't allowed to have. Again, making them happy in what they want. But teaching them to eat healthy.
Students are not allowed to have salad.
They're limited to their salt.
Okay.
Natural and unusual forms.
They're limited to their fat, their salt, their ketchup, their sugars,
So
their fructose.
limited salt.
Limited ranch.
Limited ranch, dressings.
Kids are walking around like, what you
And they're limited for health reasons, so this kind of puts the teachers at an advantage to where they're being able to eat healthy and promote those habits to the children.
Thank you, Miss Julia. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move the recommendation to increase to
20%.
20. For the adult salad bar.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Yes, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Might I add one thing?
Nope.
No? Really?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm so elated, I just had to share this. So we're doing summer feeding students during the summer. And yesterday we had a visit from the Department of Agriculture. It's our year to be audited. And the monitor came around and he went to Chiefland Elementary. And we passed with flying colors. We had no red flags, nothing. It ran very well. Had to share. We're doing
Thank you.
well.
He just said football before the bid, didn't
That's what I said.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes.
We don't, the students don't have to pay for the lunches or breakfasts, do they? I didn't think so. I saw that on TV 20 about the game, so I wanted to make sure we were on the same program.
Same. Ms. Howard.
Sorry, I didn't bring any food or treats. Good evening, board. That's Cardiac Chapala here. Good evening, board and superintendent. I'm bringing an update to you on our hiring process, so where we're at. And I'm happy to say that we are ahead of where we were last year at this time. And currently, we have 17 teaching positions open. And some of those positions, the principals have already interviewed. We're processing paperwork. I know we processed 6 yesterday. There were 8 packets in the folder this afternoon. We're at 17 positions. Last year, on the first day of school, we were at 24. So we're already ahead of the game. We have 2 reading coach positions open, 1 guidance, 7 aides, and 1 custodian. So we're working on it. I want to compliment our administrative team. They started early actually this year, recruiting, and we started with our job fair, which turned out to be a great success. And so they have been working weekends, around the clock, and they've hired some awesome people this year. So we're very excited about this upcoming year and the people that we have on board to make a successful year. Do you have any questions about what we're doing? Or?
No, a couple of years ago, we did the thing where we went to New York,
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. So, and wasn't very fruitful to us.
Yes,
so.
that's not.
We've actually found that Barb posted on our Facebook page and on our webpage an announcement, and it's had like 12 or 1,500 hits. So we feel like we're trying, and one of them kind of looks like this, getting the word out to apply. And so we're rolling.
What was the final total on how many employees resigned last year?
Between July 1st of 2017 and this July 1st, we processed 75. That would be aides, that includes people retiring, not just people quitting. Movement, people move, spouses get different jobs. So that was our inventory. I will say that as of today, we have processed 108 applications since May the 7th.
To give you some idea, we have about 850 employees.
Yes, ma'am. Did you implement the exit interview policy this year?
We certainly did. We changed that form about in March. And so we've been working with our confidential secretaries to get that rolling. Of that percentage, we had 17 returned at the very end of the year. So probably that data isn't real accurate as far as numbers, but we did process it. As a matter of fact, I brought that paper with me. Of those turned in, of the 75, we had 27% leave for personal reasons, 25 25% leave for employment in Florida. 19% their contract expired. And then towards the end, 1% job abandonment, one person didn't show up. Employment outside of Florida, that was kind of how that dropped. 8% went into drop. And I had that breakdown here. If you want, I could give it to you after.
Because, well, for instance, with Ms. Jones's passionate speech, did she do an exit interview? Would you use the information that she used tonight for policy making or towards that exit interview system?
Well, you know, it's our policy to always listen to everything, because I think you can always glean something that you can improve for the next year. So I did take notes. There is a letter, and we always look at all the details to see what we can do to improve and help concerns and listen to that. We also meet with our union, and we try to listen and we try to work together to make things as wonderful as possible.
Do you actually do the interviews, or do you just have to fill out a form explaining why they left?
It's a form.
It's a form. Do they have to sign it?
Yes. It's confidential.
Yes,
You're saying they fill out a form, you don't do an actual interview face-to-face? It's just a form they fill out?
It's a form that they fill out with the secretary, the school secretary, as they're resigning or leaving. They do that paperwork in a packet, and then that comes to personnel.
Ms. Marla, wouldn't some of our principals do some of this where it may be just more of an informal, where they're going through and having some of these conversations too, so.
That, and also our confidential secretary. You know, you'd be surprised how much information they gather as people come and sit down, and they pass that on to us. And also, we have administrative meetings here where we all get together and we talk about what's going on and concerns of the teachers and what's happening. Absolutely, we take that very seriously, really.
Do you think any of the teachers have fear of retaliation as far as a reference if they gave a bad interview or bad information? Is there any fear of that, like is there retaliation for that? Because you can really destroy somebody with a bad reference, and you think that might limit what you're getting?
I can't really answer that. I don't know. You know, we try not to be that way. I know one principal that she really highlights the fact if you're leaving, you know, I want your last few weeks here to be awesome so that I can give you an outstanding reference. So that's kind of how she presents that, you know. So we try to be upfront, and we try to not focus on being retaliatory or punitive.
I know, but it's just kind of a fact of what would be in the back of somebody's mind if they give a negative, which they think is constructive, that may be construed as negative. And I was just curious.
Well, those exit surveys come to me, they're not with a certain packet from a certain school, so I don't even know which school they're coming from. So I would think that wouldn't happen. Not that I know.
When you get reference verifications, they don't call us, they call school.
They call this, you mean the principal?
If somebody is going to give a reference verification, they don't call the district office, they call the school where they work at.
They don't call HR for the reference?
No, they call the school. Somebody's going to verify a reference, they call the school where they work at,
So the principal would be giving the reference.
or assistant principal, somebody like that.
Those,
They're direct supervisors.
I did not know that. I assumed that HR would.
No.
That's.
So we don't lead ourselves into something that we're not leading into something that may not be the case. I've never remember a principal who had an employee leave that they didn't know, they couldn't answer me why they left or where they went to. Okay? So it's not like we're out of tune and out of touch of what's going on, just one day there's nobody sitting in the classroom.
Right, oh.
Right, there's reasons and why and the understanding of it. For the data collection, so that we don't get this, Ms. Cooper, we get the data collection so we can analyze it to come up with these numbers and the true reasons why a person left. moving to a different district, it could be for a multiple reasons. Money,
No, I.
could be travel, could be family and other, right, so there's a lot of things to factor in, so that we don't lead it down the road to try to create something out of that, and what we intended extra interview to be.
So I am excited about this year, starting the year out with the updated exit interview form. So we can get some really good data as to, why somebody leaves or, have those facts accurate, not just assuming something is going on. Any other questions?
What is the confidential secretary?
She is, or he, is the person that works with the principal, the assistant principal. In our district, they also do a lot of bookkeeping for that school. And they are like the right hand arm. They do all the paperwork, they do making sure we have subs. Some of them do calling for subs.
I guess the best way to do it, Terry, there's information about that you keep confidential. I mean, there's stuff that you have. And there's information that we have in the personnel department that we have to keep confidential, and that's what that person does.
Well, that's the person that requests the survey, surveys.
It is.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Byers, with your percentages, where do the terminated employees fall in and the non-renewed? Is the non-renewed the contract percentage?
The contract expired is 19%.
Right, is that your non-renewed teachers?
Yes.
Okay. And terminations are in which percentage?
I don't have a category for terminated. Those that were annual contract or non-renewed were 19%.
How about subs? And that's always a challenge. What have we done to try to recruit subs and so on?
All right, about in March, we met together and tried to do some brainstorming. It's because we were falling short of subs. And the schools initiated some things through their SAC committee and some advertising, putting the word out there that subs were needed, and that had not been done. We have seen a huge influx of applications come through our office over the summer, at the end of last year and over the summer. And so I think we're in a much better position for subs this year than we were last year. But it was mainly a promotion like through our Facebook and through the local school sites. And they know several of the parents and volunteers that come in a lot but didn't really know that we were needing subs.
Excellent. Any further questions on the staff? Yes, ma'am.
One more question. Who evaluates the principals? Who does performance evaluations for those folks?
Those are done by the superintendent and his team.
And his team?
The assistant superintendents, they do, the assistant superintendents do that.
So you do the performance, those, you and your team evaluate the principals. Who evaluates the superintendent? And I'm really not, I just don't know, I don't know the hierarchy.
The voters, every 4 years.
Well, no, okay, but, so that's, okay.
All right. If there are no other questions, we'll now move into your master service.
All right, we are here this evening. I'm asking for your approval of the 2018-19 Master In-Service Plan for this evening. DFACT and the HR directors reviewed and revised the plan to include the most recent changes in our laws. Those changes are listed in your summary of additions and revisions, which looks like this. And as you have probably already glanced through that, it mainly includes things on mental health, school safety, and reading difficulties. And the new laws have been implemented and put into this. And because this plan is 108 pages long, I did not run copies, but I did give you a packet that shows that if you don't already have an EFACT account, it's very easy to go in and find any category that you are looking for, and this is what is used in our office. And I would say that at the very back, I put a quick reference guide for you for general ed, a quick reference guide for ESE, and the component numbers that we use for in-service. Are there any questions on that?
I'll entertain a motion to,
Can I just ask a calculation question? Because okay, so at the bottom where we have by individual, those calculations of 0.8973, that's a percentage of what?
Wrong thing.
I'm on the wrong one? Okay. I'm sorry, I want to page it. I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'll ask that question next time. Next time.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to approve the master in-service plan as proposed by Ms. Hire. Mr. Coward, you obviously have a
On this, does this help with the recruitment and development of like our instructional leaders? And so growing the administration, just,
You know, that is a good question. There's a lot of focus in this one on assisting our new teachers and mentors
right.
and promoting that. So we have much stronger instructional support.
Any more questions?
Are we still using the foundation for our mentors?
Yes.
Okay.
But can I go back to your question? You mentioned something about increasing leaders, is that what you
Yes,
said?
ma'am.
There is a component in here, and it's called Aspiring Leaders on the Master in Service Plan 7-507-008 on these components with their identifier numbers. And NEFAC does have an Aspiring Leaders workshop coming up or an in-service program.
Okay.
And so we're contacting our schools to see who they would like to send through that.
Thank you.
And as a separate item, we do have, it's through NEFAC, and it's the Principal Leadership Cadre, different things that we will send this year. We're focusing mainly on assistant principals, sending them to those, and again, they get cadre too, but sending them for that development.
Yes, sir, you have a question.
Well, there's a pretty steep learning curve when you try to figure out all the acronyms and names here. What is an in-service, master in-service plan? What is it?
NEFAC, the consortium, they work on this plan. It is given to DOE, like as soon as the board approves this, we will submit that to NEFAC, and then they submit that to DOE for us. And it's a detailed plan of, like, if a teacher, let's say for example, if a teacher goes to a workshop, then they can get points for that workshop, and then those points are added up, and then they can recertify their certificate through those points. So,
It's a master plan of training that we have to, that we need to provide for our personnel.
Continuing it.
so that's in lieu of taking college courses to renew your certificate.
And in larger districts, they probably have this in-house. So
Yes.
that's why we do NEFAC, which is the Northeast Florida Educational Consortium. So, and that's who we use to help provide us, some of these professional development and in-service training types. So we're in Orange County, they're gonna do this in-house, so their Orange teachers aren't having to go anywhere to do the training, it would be there in Orange County. So, does that make sense, Mr. Perry?
Where is this one?
So this could be anywhere in this district, it could be in Putnam County where NEFAC is based out of, it could be here in our district that we do something and then teachers from
And
other
Gilbert's coming.
And I
districts
think
come.
Dr. Hall has a trainer coming up who invited other counties to do
Yes,
this.
yes. We have Douglas County, Alachua County, and Citrus County join us tomorrow. Those same districts also joined us a month ago when we had Dr. Deeker from the University of Central Florida come. So we share our resources with surrounding districts and likewise.
Is this primarily for teachers or is it for administrators?
Well,
How often do teachers have to recertify?
it's 5 minutes.
Any further questions from the board? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mrs. Howard. Are there any changes needed to the minutes? Everybody had a chance to read over those?
Yes. Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. If there's no objection, we'll pass that motion on consent. Seeing none, motion carries. Now move into our consent agenda in addition to, are there any changes necessary to the agendas? Start with Mr. Cowart. Mr. Cowart, do you have any questions or comments?
The only thing, this core connections, is there a big change in that from what we use?
That's the state about the financial.
So, going on here, so very nice to see. So coming back to Cedar Key, Miss Sue, Miss Linda, so Kim, appreciate her coming back. So she took a year off. She was in drop, retired for a year, and so basically was at school every day volunteering. So and now she's back as our reading coach. So appreciate her being back. That's all I have.
That's it. Ms.
No
Brickens?
questions or anything?
I think all mine have been answered. Thank you very much.
All right. I am also good. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion also carries. Mr. Superintendent, you have wise words for this.
I don't know about wise words, but I got words.
All right,
And it just so happens, I mean, it's just coincidence that we're going to be talking about what we're doing today, and there's extra copies here. We've been working, we started all this last year, and I've talked with you a little bit about some of the surveys, and I've shared survey results with you about things that we sent out to our staff and our students and different things that we've been doing and been listed. And I want to do some more, and that's, I want to see some more. But this is a draft, by the way, and you can share that with the audience. There should be some extras. This is a draft. What we're trying to do, we've talked a lot about how businesses out there, for example, I'm going to use Chick-fil-A and Publix as two examples. The businesses out there, they adopt core values about how they want to treat customers and treat people. And so this information here is going to assimilate from the feedback that we've received from our people. And we've given this, and Marla, Ms. Hires, has really been a point on bringing a lot of this together and trying to put together a set of core values for Lee County. And this is something that now it's back in the hands, it's going back out that way to the principals. They've already been through this one time, and they're going to be sharing this with their staff, and I think we want to make a comment on that. Ms. Hires?
They are. We asked them today just to take one more glance at it for any feedback, and I sent it to them last Thursday. We haven't gotten anything, any revisions on it back. So we plan to laminate this and put that out as something that they can use every day on their campus. It will be used here at the county office. It will be our way of work, how we treat people, how we conduct business, and just want to have something great for our community.
So this is something else. This is a draft, and once we get the feedback back, we'll bring it back to you. So when you can, for your input, you can certainly call our meeting with Stires or any of the staff. So comments?
I like it.
I like it too. Really great points, and we need to follow through too.
Will this tie in with our reaccreditation stuff? Reaccreditation. So will this tie in with our?
As far as in-service points,
The district accreditation.
the district accreditation, I'm sorry, yes, it definitely will.
That actually will be produced back to back, and then with a hard laminate on it, so you can actually.
you had input on this, so you,
Absolutely no input on this. This is the first time I've seen it.
Can I make a comment? This is all the things my mother and father taught me about growing up, and I got spankings for it if I didn't do it. So that's just my opinion.
Well, we took in a lot of information that was out there on the surveys and stuff, and that's how it got to where it is. And let me go ahead and share this one out. This is also a draft, and I shared this one out with the principals today. And this is just a lot of work that we've been doing that goes behind this document right here. One of the things is that we've, talk about the exit surveys and stuff like that. We're doing a lot of looking at why people in the school, kids and staff and everything else. And so we're asking the question, why are we missing school? And so we're doing that and having the conversations. And so that data is something that, that we're looking at and tracking. One of the big things that we're having a conversation about is professional development, and this is cool because of professional development. And so we offer those things, that's why we have the professional development days now in the schedule. Can we do stuff jobs and better professional development to keep our folks in the schoolhouse? So different things like that. We also approved earlier this year an extracurricular activities committee, and that's a part of this year. And part of Vince Glover's work is going to be to work with them, and it's using the extracurricular activities in our schools, whether it's a student development or whether it's an athletic program. Those are the heartbeats of what goes on in our secondary schools. So it's working with them and working with our schools to make sure that we all work together and support each other in these endeavors. E is the professional development protocol. We've developed professional customer relations training, and all of our administrators, staff have been through that, and a lot of our school-based staff have been, and we've given the principals that information, and that's going to be the job of the principals to take and talk about customer relations training at the schoolhouse. So, we've talked about the impact award, and we've started establishing those, recognize those people that are going above and beyond. This hire has talked about H&I, the new teacher cadres, and the established mentor teachers for new teachers. So in other words, support systems for our new folks that are coming on board, because those are the ones that we lose the fastest are the new ones. So how can we support these people and keep them on staff? Talk about communication and connection. Be purposeful and clear about what we're doing. This year we've created a core group of principals, and we're bringing them in to everything that we're doing around here. So it's site-based decision making and working, and those principals are going to be leading discussions and leading the way we're going as a district. And so we're getting the information from them as to which way and what directions we need to go as a district. We've done work on coaching conversations, because one of the things that's kind of like, we got to do a better job of building up our people. So we've had the NEFAC come in, work with our folks, our administrators on coaching conversations. How can we improve what we're doing, and how can we build up our staff, and how can we retain more people? And that happened this year as well. Started putting out a superintendent's monthly memo. I've got another one that's on the dashboard ready to edit and go out hopefully this week. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is just working with our secondary schools, establishing a student advisory panel. And so I'm going to work with the principals. I'll talk to them about that. And this is meeting with different students at each school, and not just your student government president, but different student leaders at each school, to talk with them and find out what's going on. How can we do a better job of serving our kids? So that will be happening, and I'll start that in September. We updated everything that we do now as far as anything that's professional development or our schools. Every school has a live calendar on the website. So if there's something you're interested in doing, just click the calendar. You should see it by school and what's going on. One of the things I also started doing is meeting with stakeholders in each community. I think we had around to every one of them last year, but we're going to have community leaders with the mayors and police chiefs and everything else in each community to make sure that we understand how that we work together for these communities. And we've started a process in here so we don't clutter up all the inboxes on a protocol for emails around here. So just like the DOE has a protocol, so that we send out a email a week that has all the information in it. We're going to continue this year, blending and continue involving in coaching conversations in our workshops that we do with our administrators. We're going to have a huge push on standards instruction this year. And this started last year, but we talked about, in here we have a kindergarten report card for standards-based report card, and we're working with our folks, and we're going to work to bring a standards-based report card to first and second grade. This is about a 2-year project. So we got some lead folks on this. Now, some of these folks don't know they're on this yet. This is suggestions. And it also will involve a lot of teachers in the input of this and what this looks like. And we've got a new K-2 reading coach that the board's invested in. And so the question is, how do we make sure that what we're doing with our K-2 reading coach is getting out to the students? And so that we've got some folks there that will be working with the K-2 reading coach and making sure that our goal here is to make sure that what we do as a board impacts the students in the classroom. And the other thing we're putting together is we started working with Janet Bradley last year about standards-based instruction in grades 3 through 8. And she came in and did some work today, and she'll be working with tomorrow. This will be a big lift right here, but she's already came in and worked with our teachers and developed new focus calendars and instructional maps and stuff like that. So she's going to be working with our teachers and our administrative team here to make sure that we do this in the standards instruction for our kids. And one of the things, and I crossed it out here because I don't know how to measure it, but one of the things to hear is that I'm going to be doing a lot of talking with our folks and making sure that we understand the big picture here. Is that if you talk to any kid, if you go to a high school senior and ask them, what are you going to do? They're going to say, I'm going to go to Santa Fe School to be A, or I'm going to University of Florida to be A, or I'm going to go to the Welding School to be A. And it's always has a career at the end of it. And so we need to make sure that what we do in our schools and what we do is relevant to our kids. And we need to be able to make those connections to our kids. And you see, I know Avid this year, they've changed their focus a little bit, and John will elaborate on this, but Avid now has got more of a college and career focus in what they're doing. And so we're looking forward to that, but we're going to be working hard at trying to figure out how we can take them, especially in our secondary schools, because what's motivating for kids is what you ask them, what are you going to do? Is the motivating factor for kids is career. And so how can we make sure and make the connections with what we're doing in the classroom and what they're going to be doing in the future? I don't know exactly how to measure that. That's a conversation we're going to start having this year. And then hopefully we'll be bringing that to you at some point. The other thing here is we got 2 schools that we need to support more than what we're able to. And then again, we want to contract with EFEC, and we call it the Rapid Intervention Team. And what they're going to do is they're coming alongside and they're going to come alongside of us and help support those schools, and so that we can bring and do a better job for those kids. And it's doing a lot of mentors for the principals, and because you got 2 first-year principals essentially. So that's the plan of where we're going at this year. Some of this, most of the stuff is stuff that you've already heard us talk about, and what I'm trying to do is put it in a document. Any questions, concerns, or trying to put things in here so we can measure and make sure that we're doing due diligence.
Thanks, sir.
It takes time, because we hear frustration, and I understand it takes time to affect change, because the change is trying to be made as cultural. I appreciate the focus and the goal from everybody's standpoint, of where you want to be at. So there is something you're working towards. I appreciate the list of goals.
And believe it or not, we do listen.
Yes, sir.
Great. Now we'll move into board comments. Mr. Coward?
I got one more.
Oh.
One more.
Go ahead.
All right.
Gives him time to think.
This is the impact award. It's an example of what this is, and I'd like to recognize somebody tonight. And this is Ms. Wallner, if you want to come over. And so Marla, and I don't know if you know, but she put on, she's a lot of different things. She's done a lot of this lifting of legwork here with our personnel and bringing all this information, trying to get it back, and trying to bring it this way and trying to get it back that way. And so she's put together a lot of that. And I know Mr. Powers at the new employee orientation this week, and a lot of the employees that I've talked to said it's the best new employee orientation they've ever been to. And so that was a great job. I just want to show our appreciation for all the work that you do. And we have for you a little pin. Got your own pin and your own shirt. Okay. I know. And I don't know if this is right or not, but if it's not right, we'll have one of these things. I don't think we have one with the name on it yet. Because you're the ones that do it. So, but I do want, I know how everybody else here feels, but we do appreciate very much all that you do. So that's a little thing here, and we'll have your name on it. Okay? Thank you. And they'll have somebody who would like to nominate us. You have forms.
Excellent.
I saw all the forms on the front.
Yeah, there.
Last school together.
Aren't there some right out there?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are you ready, Mr. Cowart? You've had time to think.
Sorry about this.
I guess first off is thanks for Ms. Marlowe for inviting us. Thought the new employee hire was well put on, so appreciate it. So always nice to have our vendors there, people that are supporters. So we had Suncoast and Drummond Bank, who are also big supporters of our foundation. So I'm thankful for them to be there. So we will have a new executive director for the schools foundation. So I don't know if I touched on that last time, but Amy Whitehurst. So will be our new executive director for the foundation. And I feel like she'll just take and pick up the ball, run with it just from where it's gone. So as it started, and appreciate all of her efforts. So,
When that takes place,
it actually takes place tomorrow, so August 1st. So Ms. Donna's going to be around to kind of help her walk her through some of the grant process and things like that. So she's ready for Andy to come in and kind of hit the ground running. So that's it, kind of the whole thing.
Hey, you know where Andy graduated high school from?
She's a Bronson Eagle. So, I'm sure Mr. Etheridge would say it. So she hired her, she did the opposite of you. You married a Red Devil, brought her to Bronson, a Red Devil married an Eagle.
You have to trade it.
So,
You have to make trades.
a good Levy County graduate. So, and I'll tell you that I think that's one of the things that I tell people in our award is we're pretty fortunate that we have 5 Levy County graduates here. So thankful to see. So Mr. Bennett and Ms. Lindsay here. So both of them here. Appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of educate yourself. And I know they were at the candidate forum on Saturday. I think we're less than right at about 28 days, 29 days till election on that. The other thing is, and this is purely a personal opinion. This is not our board opinion, but just really want people to take the time to educate themselves on the CRC stuff. Amendment 8, if you value home rule or local control, I believe we would be against that because it erodes home rule and local control. And it's unfortunate whenever you do something once every 20 years that the people who are in charge of this process don't feel the citizens deserve enough to break things down into single ideas, to roll term limits for school board members, whether you think that's right or wrong. I know we have term limits for our legislators, and our legislation decided not to take that follow through with that this year, but also the fact that you added civic literacy, which I believe I put our records on what our kids do in 7th grade civic literature across literacy across the state, so on how well they do. So
It's a state mandated form.
which it is. So, but our kids do exceptionally well, and especially in Cedar King, how well they do. Just Chairman Bishop on that, and to roll in there to take away the power of this board to authorize school charters. I think it's just definitely an attack on rule and local control. So that's my personal opinion. I believe that's the opinion of collectively, so I don't want to speak for anybody but myself. And so I really want people to take their time to educate themselves to see what damages could be done by passing this. So what this could do, as much as I like our legislator, Charlie Stone and Rob Bradley, it could essentially mean that they could start an alternate school that would be funded directly from them, and that these things, that there would be no say, that the citizens of Lincoln County would really not have a say in what's right. And that's the unfortunate thing with our system the way it is right now. So, not sorry to be long-winded there, Mr. Chairman, so but I want to be on the record as saying that I'm opposed to CRC. If you have a chance, please pass that along.
No problem, Mr. Cowell. Thank you. Mrs. Brooks, any comment?
Just following up on that, everyone, please get that pack. I think that Supervisor of Elections, she's got a pack of all those amendments. Please read, please spread the word, please help family. I mean, it's so critical to do that. And then I'm excited about our new school year. I think everybody's worked hard. It's obvious from what we've heard tonight. And I think that we have a new direction and a new start. And we've had things in the past, but it's all improving and it's getting better and it's exciting. And what's going to happen to our students. So I'm thrilled, I'm happy, and I know there's a lot of things next week that are coming up and meetings we have to attend. And Dr. Hall, I was so bad going to be at that meeting tomorrow. And last meeting I had planned to be there, and I can't be there when I do apologize. But I appreciate your efforts for getting that together. It's going to be great. So, thank you.
It'll be super.
Super, it is. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you.
I don't have a lot of comments. I did Mr. Calvin. I think we spent a lot less time talking about what the CRC did more time. This manual of the CRC created to write constitutional notes. It was created to revise. And anyway, to a more positive note, as we tour around the schools, everybody gets cleaned up to do what I call every single year to create the impossible. I watched Mr. Witt today. When you go through that whole budget and you start thinking about it all, there's so many handcuffs inside of it. And then you think about just the pure, it still amazes me when once you get inside and look at it, that we dispatch buses starting at 5:45 in the morning, probably 6 o'clock. We go collect them all up, parents get them ready, get them into school, and we put them all the way down to the minutes that we have per day, mandated by the state of Florida, and a 30-minute recess on our elementary school kids, right? So many instructional hours. And then we get them all delivered back home after we feed them and counsel them to make sure that they're career ready. By the end of the day, it's still a miracle to me that it happens. And we get it within 5%. Financial condition ratio. So that's good to all people, staff, teachers, everybody. We're fixing to start that all over. We're like 19%. Hopes and prayers, more success for you. That's it.
You had something?
I did. I wanted to say that last Thursday, we had Representative Stone here. He was in Cedar Key for a meeting, and then I carried him around to the school, and he had lunch at the summer program, so they fed him a low country boil, but then he came to the district office here and kind of shared with him about our meeting at DOE. He was a little puzzled, to say the least, that no one realizing that what we're talking to them about with conversion and also accommodations, how it's not, what happens usually is the unintended consequences of passing legislation that they never thought that it would be, and how there may be umpteen dozen times 3 ways things are converted and done. So appreciate him. He's been very, very valuable to Lincoln County. So appreciate him being able to be here and listen council and kind of point us in the right direction and be willing to take that for us. So, thank you for that.
Kind of just a comment on that, I think I really looked at it differently. And because he asked, well, what would you like us to do? And you know, we talked about if DOE's rulemaking authority. But if you look at what other school districts have done, is essentially they've taken the effect of the final exam out of the grade. So essentially just get rid of the in-course exam requirement and save the millions of dollars that you're spending on it and put it back and let the teacher do the job. That was my final recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry.
That's all good. The beauty of being the board chairman is everybody steals your thunder by the time it comes. I really don't have a lot to say, except we're fixing to start back to school, and these children, these teachers, these administrators, they'll be in safe environments. Not because of some mandate, not because of some hurried rule, but because we love them, be careful, and take care of them. If you doubt that, you can spend about 2 hours with about 4 or 5 people in this room, and you'll see just how much they love people in the county, and I appreciate it. Any board member got any further business? Seeing that, yes, the press has questions.
I
You are limited to
remember
5
that
minutes.
you're going to the Guardian program.
Sir, I'm sorry.
I heard a rumor that the school district is going to implement the Guardian program.
At the last meeting, we voted to approve the Guardian program.
So how does that fit in with the school deputies or the school resource deputies?
Because it's a security measure, we don't go into discussion about that. We just voted to participate in the Guardian program. That's,
Set aside any money for it in the budget? Or?
No, there's an allocation.
there's an allocation for it.
Out there, the categorical allocation for that. But we will have a school resource officer that we must do.
You have to apply, it's a grant process for that, Mr. Chair. So,
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that you reduced your self-insurance plan by 1%. And at the last meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, they went over their health insurance. And one of the questions I asked them was if they reached out to the school board to maybe bring in their employees to help reduce costs and join the same kind of plan. Did anybody reach out to you from the Board of County Commission to become part of this, your self-insurance plan, or are you allowed to do that?
I know we've had conversation with them. I don't know where they're at with it, but I know we've talked about it with folks in the county, and they've toured our facility, and they looked at it, so I don't know where they're at with it, but I know they've looked at it.
They've looked at your plan, and they would be allowed to join if they so choose?
Yes, ma'am, I mean,
Yes?
Are you saying to join the self-insured plan or to?
The health insurance plan that y'all have.
No, that's different.
So what is the self-insurance that I'm saying you reduced by 1%? Is this,
That's revenues, first of all, not expenditures. So revenues would be money coming in from our employees to pay their premiums, in part. But that includes all of our insurances. But here is our, how would you?
It's like a health provider.
in-house,
in-house
resident
Right.
health provider?
Right.
Right.
And that they could do, but they couldn't join our self-insurance.
But that's your health insurance plan, what you just, what was it? Care? Is that what you
Care here is a, what would you call it?
Would that be the same as a Blue Cross Blue Shield?
No, we also have Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there are, Kaylee should be here to speak on that, because I
I'll-
haven't messed that up completely.
I'll do
So
a
please,
request to.
Yes,
Because it's so confusing.
It is.
And
it is.
I didn't get a straight answer, so I
I
will.
think it'd be easier to sit down and talk with her.
Yeah, that.
Have a conversation.
Yes, sir.
Well, depending on how you do your counting, it's, I think we have at least 12 schools that include some charters. Is that right?
I'm worried about my 9. We have 9 schools.
I'm not worried about the charters.
My job is to, our general fund is our school, our 9 schools. We're not the board for the charter schools.
So you're considering chief of the middle and chief of high in one school.
It's one school.
So how much money did you give the county commission? 500?
we've made it all the way to this point. And I know you all have tried to create a divide. You tried to make that between the sheriff, board of county commissioners, and the school. This project's going to be funded, and there'll be a resource officer in every school. Mission accomplished.
I have a right to ask
Well,
questions.
I understand that. I
I'm
know.
not trying to create a divide, I'm just asking questions.
Right. And I'm giving you an answer that is, thank goodness we live in Levy County where we have a multi-effort to get it done without the cooperative.
At the last board meeting, 3 contracts were signed for the sheriff's department. $509,396 are coming from the safe school allocation and IDEA portion. And then we also signed another contract for additional funds for 1 year, $150,000. So $659,396 will go from Levy County School District to Levy County Sheriff's Department for the funding of SROs in every school.
I think the county commission set aside $550,000 for cameras. Right, that was their plan.
We all know everybody how that went.
The way I understand it is, and this, we're getting into a county commission meeting that they can answer, but this county commission doesn't lie on sheriff's budget.
They just give him his lunch.
He gets his lump sum and he does. So, I mean, the conversation, if he does or doesn't, the sheriff's got to have a budget to work with. And there'll be a resource officer in every school. Isn't that right?
But you're telling me now what the county commission is.
Yes.
And I was just trying to line up the facts, see what you would do.
That's what we're doing. That's what we did. That's what we did.
But you're not planning on putting deputies in the 2 charter schools.
They have their own board, that's,
Their board has.
and their sheriff's office and how they staff folks and.
They get a portion of the safe school allocation, and that's passed along to them. That is not held at the district, so they spend those dollars themselves.
That little deal is between sheriff and charge.
I can't answer for them.
We have the responsibility for our 9 schools.
Can you answer how much money has been set aside for the Guardian program?
It's a grant, because you have to apply for it.
Oh, you have to apply?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Do you know how much you're applying for?
Well, I don't know, it goes through the sheriff's department, he's the one that actually gets the grant. Because he's the one that pays for the training.
the state set that aside, I think $69 million, I believe, is what the state set aside for that program. And it'll be a competitive basis throughout the state. And so, I mean, there's a lot of variables that go with that, so.
So the sheriff applies